Moving on to our sports psychologist, Dr. Trammel. What types of athletes or teams do you typically work with, and how do you help them overcome mental performance challenges?
I work with mostly golfers of all ages because of my background is primarily in that sport. And then I help them, most every client that comes to me, they have the same story. And it is, I am awesome in practice. I can do anything with basketball, baseball, hockey puck, golf. When it comes to game time, I'm pulled up like a cheap house of cards. I don't know why. We've tried new equipment. We've got all the best coaches. We've done everything, Dr. Trammel. We just don't understand. I think I've heard that term. I don't know how many times I've heard that term. We just don't understand. Well, I understand. It's performance anxiety is what it is, and it's layered on with enormous expectations from everybody in that athlete's circle. So if it was up to the athlete, they would never call me, never. And as I'm sitting here, I'm looking at baseball players, tennis players, basketball players walking by here, and I think to myself, how many of those athletes would improve their performance with 3-4 weeks of working with me? And the answer is more than likely, probably most all of them. However, the field is stigmatized, and it will always be stigmatized because no teenager wants to talk to a psychologist. But I am not clinically orientated, and I am on the coaching side of it. But when you say to somebody, we'd like for you to see a sports psychologist, and the inevitability is I am not crazy. There's nothing wrong with me, and I'm not going to let some shrink go into my head. And so that is the last thing that I do. I don't do anything clinical. And so then after a few weeks with me, maybe in a few months, they see their performance completely turning around, and then they get that scholarship to University of Tulsa or Montana State University. All of a sudden, now I'm part of the team now from here on in. I am just now another cog in the wheel in this great athlete's world. So that's one of the challenges that I face, and my methodology is simply helping them overcome the self-sabotaging language that is going on in their head 24/7, the mountain of expectations that are layered upon them by every person, coach, their school, the media, everybody. They're so great, and then they cannot perform in a game time when they really need it. But again, when it comes to practice time, out of the park. So there you have it.
That's very cool. That must be fun. What are some misconceptions about sports psychology, and how do you help athletes and coaches understand its value?
Yeah, you can forget about coaches. They don't know anything about sports psychology unless your last name is Saban. And they don't want to have anything to do with sports psychologists. So coaches, I have no interaction with no coach. I work behind the scenes at universities. The coach doesn't even know that I'm part of the team. They have no idea, and that's the way I want it. And so I will sit in the stands with just a hat on, and then I'll meet my client in the parking lot. I don't give any indications of who I am or whatever. It's strictly kind of private. So coaches, that's out. My clients start with mothers. Mothers call me. Fathers do not call me. Mothers call me. And then at that point, we then have a confab with the athlete. So let's say it's a 14-year-old baseball player. Then I'll do a phone call with them or something like that. And then once they understand that I am not a clinical psychologist, I am not going to be asking them about their private life and all that. This has got nothing to do with that. This is strictly performance enhancement via mental skills training. That's what it is, kind of like high-end coaching. Once they understand that, and then they see that what I am coaching them or asking them to experiment with in practice, it actually helps them in practice. Once they see that, then they take it to a game. And then once it happens in a game, that's it. Me and that boy or girl, we're best friends now, and that's it. So I have a long relationship with a lot of my clients. But at the very beginning, it's a kind of skeptical relationship because, again, a teenager does not want to talk to a psychologist because of the stigma that's involved with it. I'm not crazy. And I can understand that. But once we get over that initial hurdle and they understand that, hey, that old guy, he kind of understands what it is to hit a baseball, or he knows really where I'm coming from, because I was that person many years ago. I sucked as a professional golfer, and I did not know why. If there was someone like me back then, maybe my career would have turned out differently. So I understand performance anxiety from a first-person viewpoint. I get it. And being a coach, I've been a coach for many, many decades. I understand the language of athletes, and it is not typical coach that you hear screaming on the sidelines. I do kind of the opposite. But once I get past that hurdle, it's all strawberry pie.
Beautiful. All right, now we're going to switch gears and share 2 questions that each panelist very quickly. We'll start from Dr. Trammel. We'll move the microphone this way towards me. Just very briefly, the first question is, looking back on your undergraduate experience, what opportunities such as coursework, internships, research were most valuable in preparing for your specific career? And is there anything you wish you would have done differently?
So I went to the University of Alabama as an undergrad. And you would think then that university is only known for one thing. And so you would think that they would have several classes on sport and exercise psychology. They do not. And so I don't know why. I was told it was because there had been a war between kinesiology and psychology that, no one would know where to put it. I don't know if that's true or not. So my thought would be that in undergrad, there would be an introduction to sports psychology. It seems like just a very basic course to introduce sports psychology to an undergraduate student. It just seems kind of natural to me, but I've not been able to find that anywhere as far as an undergrad. In graduate school, yes, not as an undergrad. As far as graduate degree in sports psychology, there are 2 basic directions that you can go in. And I'm going to keep this short, even though I talk about this for 25 minutes, but I'm going to keep it short for you all. So there is a PhD in doctorate, or EDD, the path that I know that professionally. For coaches, I would say more for the coaching side of it. But in order to do that, you've got to know about coaching. You can't, I don't know how you could talk to an athlete about golf, baseball, football, soccer, without knowing something about the sport. You would have to know the language of that coaching. So I was, I kind of stumbled into it because I know a lot about a lot of sports, and I'm an expert when it comes to golf psychology. As far as golf psychology, I played the game professionally. I've been a golf instructor for 30 years and I have a doctorate in sports psychology. My thesis and my dissertation were on golf psychology. So I've done all my professional career has been on golf psychology. So that's a niche within a niche within a niche, right? However, if I had to go back and do it again, I would not have pursued the PhD or in sports psychology. I would have stayed in the counseling department. I have a master's degree in athletic counseling. I I would have stayed right there and got my PsiChi from Springfield College. And then after I finished my dissertation, you do a 1-year internship somewhere. And then at that point, now, if you all don't hear anything else I say today, hopefully you'll hear this, because of insurance. When you are licensed, you can take insurance. I cannot take insurance. And I lose a lot of clients because they cannot afford my services. A lot of clients. I cannot work pro bono. If I did, I would have clients from 9 to 5 days a week. I can't do that. So if any of you are thinking about, well, I'd like to work with athletes, okay, fine. If you're a great coach, then carve a niche. But if you don't know anything about coaching, then I would suggest go to the clinical route or the counseling route, so that at the end, you can take insurance. I know it sounds kind of wonky and everything, but if I had to do it over again, that's exactly what I've done. I would have stayed in the counseling department or the clinical department, and then when I got back to Alabama or Florida, where I was going, I could take on insurance.
That is super crucial to know. That's a tidbit that you may not have known otherwise, and you don't want to do schooling and get to the very end and realize that's an important piece of the puzzle. So thank you for sharing that.